Al-Haddad told his son everything that happened, and the boy was very sad. Son! I did not know that you would go to the king, so I threatened you. Son, now tell me how you managed to survive. 234, 255. Narrator. Oh, son! I escaped death from you and also from the king. You threatened me with a knife, and if I hadn't gone to the king, he would have killed me. And when I reached the king, he wanted to kill me too. But in the end, I survived. Son, how can I escape death twice? Narrator. The boy was thinking about how he could do something that had never been done before. And after some time, he called his father and said, Son, Father, go to the king again and say that I am ready to do any work. Narrator. Al-Hadid, happy that his son had calmed down, went to the king and told him about his readiness. 256-2307 King. Good. Let me think about what task you can perform. Minister? My king, why don't we ask him to bring the light of the moon into a bottle? King, that's a great idea. Minister, bring me the bottle! Narrator. So they brought the king a very large bottle and left it in front of the young man. Then they locked him up inside. The boy thought about what to do. The boy. How can I get the moonlight into a bottle? Narrator. As the night went on, the boy began to feel lonely and sad. Then he took off his shirt and started rubbing the bottle. And suddenly the walls of the bottle began to glow with silver. The boy was very happy and continued to rub the bottle until all the light of the moon appeared in it. Narrator. When morning came, the king opened the bottle and saw the beautiful moonlight inside. He was very happy and gave the boy his daughter's hand. The boy was very happy to accomplish this difficult task. Narrator. The next day, the wedding of the young man and the princess took place, and everyone was very happy. 308, 2, 3, 32. Narrator. Once upon a time, there was a powerful and wealthy king who ruled over a vast kingdom. However, despite his power and wealth, the king was deeply troubled by his inability to produce an heir. This worried him greatly, as he desired to have someone to inherit his throne and carry on his bloodline. One day, the king became so frustrated that he assembled all the wise men, healers, and magicians in his kingdom and offered them a hefty reward, promising them even more if they could solve his problem. Many tried and failed, and the king's desperation only grew with time. Eventually, a young and unassuming wizard approached the king and offered to help. The king, desperate for a solution, agreed to the wizard's terms without hesitation. The wizard went to a secluded part of the kingdom and performed a series of complex rituals and incantations. After several days of intense magical activity, the wizard emerged from his retreat with a small wooden box in his hands. The king, along with the queen, eagerly awaited the wizard's revelation. With trembling hands, the wizard opened the box, revealing a tiny baby inside. Overjoyed, the king and queen rushed to embrace their newborn son, and the kingdom erupted in celebration. From that moment on, the young prince was the center of attention in the kingdom. The king showered him with love and affection, determined to ensure that his son grew up happy and healthy. The wizard, having fulfilled his promise, disappeared into the annals of history, leaving behind a legacy of wonder and gratitude. And so the king lived happily ever after with his wife and son, ruling wisely and justly over their kingdom. They passed down stories of the wizard's incredible magic to future generations, ensuring that the tale of the miraculous birth of their son was never forgotten. Once upon a time, there was a poor woodcutter who lived deep in a dark and scary forest. The woodcutter had a son named Abdullah, who was as strong and brave as any knight. One day, while chopping wood, the woodcutter heard a strange noise. It was a sound he had never heard before. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to follow the sound. As he walked deeper into the forest, the sound grew louder and louder. Suddenly, he came across a clearing, and what he saw made his blood run cold. In the middle of the clearing was a small house made of wood and stone. Smoke was coming out of its chimney, and the sound he had been hearing was coming from inside. But what really caught his attention was a large cauldron that was hanging over a fire pit in front of the house. The cauldron was filled with a green liquid that was bubbling and boiling. and coming out of the liquid were all kinds of delicious foods, roasted meat, sweet cakes, and fresh loaves of bread. The woodcutter couldn't believe his eyes. He had never seen anything like this before. He knocked on the door of the house, and a moment later, a man opened it. The man had a long white beard, and his eyes twinkled with wisdom. The woodcutter explained what he had seen and asked if he could take some of the food to his son, who was very sick. The old man smiled and said, "Of course, take as much as you need." The woodcutter couldn't thank him enough. He took some of the food and hurried home. When he gave some of the food to his son, he immediately felt better. From that day on, the woodcutter's son became strong and healthy again. Before leaving, the woodcutter promised to return the favor to the old man. But as the days passed, he forgot all about it. One day, however, he remembered his promise and decided to go back to the old man's house. When he got there, he was surprised to see that the house and the clearing looked completely different. The woodcutter was now standing in front of a huge palace made of gold and precious stones. The clearing was filled with all kinds of delicious food and beautiful clothes. The woodcutter was amazed by the transformation. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of him and said, "You have come at last." The woodcutter was scared, but he explained that he had come to return the favor to the old man. The man smiled and said, "I am the old man you met in the forest. I am a genie, and you have just returned my favor. Now I am in your debt and will grant you 3 wishes." The woodcutter was overjoyed, but before he could make his wishes, the genie continued. "For your son, I have already made a wish that he should become king of these lands." The woodcutter was shocked. He had never wanted his son to become king. He was happy with his simple life in the forest. The woodcutter tried to argue with the genie, but he would not listen. The woodcutter thought for a moment. He knew that he couldn't change the genie's first wish, but he could change the other 2. He decided to use his second wish to bring his son back to their simple life in the forest. But when he told the genie his wish, it did not come true. The genie explained that once a wish was made, it could not be changed. The woodcutter was devastated. He had only 1 wish left, but he could not think of anything that would be more important than his son's happiness. Then he remembered the palace and all the delicious food and clothes he had seen there. He decided to use his last wish to have the palace and all its riches given to those in need throughout the land. And so it was. The woodcutter and his son lived a peaceful and happy life in the forest, knowing that they had helped bring happiness to others. From then on, the woodcutter always remembered to keep his promises. For you never knew when a genie might be lurking around the corner.